Kia ora, I'm Erica Wilkinson, and this is the Doc Sounds of Science podcast. Kia ora, ko Erica Wilkinson tēnei. He kōnei I purangi tēnei e pā ana ki ngā Sounds of Science. Every episode, we talk about work being done behind the scenes by Doc's technical experts, scientists, rangers, and the experts in between. I've been looking forward to this one. This episode of the Doc Sounds of Science podcast is all about Kiwi. I'd like to welcome Chris Dodd, Doc Ranger and Biodiversity Lead. Kia ora, Chris.
Kia ora, Erica. Ko Chris Dodd, tōku ingoa. Hi, Erica. My name is Chris Dodd.
Hello. And do people call you Chris Dodd? Should I?
I usually go by Doddy. Call me Doddy.
Doddy.
I've been known as that since about 6. So.
All right. So Doddy has one of the coolest jobs on the planet. He's a Kiwi Ranger, and he works in some of the most beautiful parts of the country. So Doddy, why don't you tell us about your job?
So I work for Doc as tokoeka Kiwi Ranger down here. I'm based in Aotearoa, and a large part of my job is based down in southern Fiordland at a Wet Jacket Arm Peninsula.
Cool. And what kind of terrain is that usually?
It can be incredibly rugged. It's probably one of the most remote places in New Zealand, and it ranges from above the tree line, about 1,000 metres above sea level, down to sea level. It's a pretty steep and rugged country, and a lot of that work is kind of subalpine environment. So you've got some, really scrubby vegetation. Leatherwood in particular is kind of a big battle to kind of struggle through in that.
And are you out in the mountains in the subalpine area every day, or is there some desk work as well?
Yeah, there's a fair bit of desk work. So we're out there around about every 2 weeks. We get out to do the field work, and we're out there for around about 3 days.
Is it your favourite bit?
The field work definitely is. Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's kind of
Even in winter.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'm not a natural person in the office. It's I'd rather be out in the rain. Not too much rain, but the joys of bird work really is that you can't work with the birds and get them wet as well as yourself. So I kind of can hide away in the office when it's wet and miserable outside, and then get to go out and play in the sunny days.
It sounds like you're the perfect kind of person to work at Doc. Now, those with sharp ears will be picking up a decidedly not New Zealand accent. So where are you from, and what brought you all the way over here?
So I'm from Harlow in Essex in England originally, so somewhere between London and Cambridge for those of you who don't know England that well. And I've worked in conservation for about 15 years before I came out into New Zealand, mostly working on small islands, doing seabird work and kind of migratory bird work as well. A lot of that time was spent up in the Shetlands, which is off the top end of Scotland on the way to Norway. Yeah, I had a good kind of 80 or so years up there.
What brought you over here?
I've got quite a long history of coming to and fro from New Zealand. A lot of my dad's family came out here in the 50s and 60s, and as a kid, I came out here with my parents a couple of times to visit them. And, kind of fell in love with the place. So I've been a regular visitor here in the Northern Hemisphere. Winters, a summer in the Northern Hemisphere, followed by a summer down here for a good few years before I actually moved down here about 5 years ago.
Brilliant. So you've been chasing the sun for years as well.
Yeah.
Nice way to do it. And you've worked extensively with North Island brown kiwi in Taranaki, right? Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to get a Kiwi Ranger post with Taranaki Kohanga Kiwi at Aotearoa, which is a joint project between the Taranaki Kiwi Trust and the Aotearoa Scenic Reserve. And the reserve itself is a kohanga, so a kind of a nursery for kiwi to grow and then repopulate the rest of Taranaki. So a large part of my job was to catch birds within the reserve towards the end of the season and help move them out to areas that were well trapped and well protected. So for the past 4 seasons now they've been moving birds out to the main Monga, also the Kaitaki Ranges, and another site just outside of Aotearoa called the Totoeka Block, a privately owned site run by a forest and bird.
Brilliant. So it sounds like you were running around at kind of a Kiwi creche.
Yeah, of sorts. It's slightly different to a Kiwi creche, whereas we kind of leave the birds to do it. They stay in there. The young chicks kind of grow up to adults or sub-adults, and once they're large enough, we'll kind of harvest the 20 or 30 birds a season and move those out to new sites.
And the idea with that is because a kiwi needs to get big enough to fight off predators. Is that the idea?
Yeah, when they're small, so below 1 kg, they're really prone to predators. Those pests would be stoats, ferrets as well. So once they're above that 1 kg, they can protect themselves. We give them that fighting chance to start off with, get them large enough, and then set them free.
Send them on their way. You must have every day as a memorable day when you're working around Kiwi, I imagine. But does one stand out? Do you have a most memorable day at work at Rotakari?
It would probably be a week. We had an incredibly busy week a couple of years ago where we decided to remove 50 birds out of the reserve. It turns out if you have kiwi in a pest-free environment, they do really well and better than we were possibly expecting. So we had actually more birds in the reserve than we thought we would have. Well over 250 birds at that stage, all from a founding population of 40, and that was all within 6-7 years. It happened really quickly, and just the pure scale of moving 50 birds out of there. We'd go through and catch them originally with teams of dogs, and then catch them again once they've had their health screening a couple of weeks later. So just an incredibly busy time. And we also, our manager, Simon Collins, passed away just the weekend before. So it was quite an emotional time for the team. And that was a huge effort. And we caught all 50 birds, moved those to the new sites, to the Totoeka Block, to the main Monga and the Kaitaki. So
wow. So you've worked with a few different types of kiwi. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, so the North Island Browns, or the Western North Island Browns over at Taranaki. Down here we had the Southern Fiordland tokoeka, and I did just have a week down at Aotearoa working on the Aotearoa tokoeka down there as well.
So tokoeka are a taonga to Ngāi Tahu, and even their name is taonga, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So tokoeka literally means weka with a walking stick, which if you see them as they leave the bow or just pottering around, is really quite accurate. They're always probing, and they do look like they're just pottering along, kind of using a walking stick.
And there are different versions of tokoeka, is that right?
Yeah, so we kind of generally go by 4 geographically distinct forms of tokoeka. We have the Haast, up in Haast, north and south Fiordland, and then Aotearoa as well.
Are all the tokoeka kiwi threatened?
Yes, they're all in trouble. So the Haast, the south and north Fiordland birds in particular, are all threatened. And there's quite little known about the southern Fiordland tokoeka as well, which is why our project, we're looking at those birds, that group in particular.
Now, I've heard you describe these birds with such passion that I felt like I was holding one, but I never have held one, and many New Zealanders haven't. And the only chance that we get is to see them on screen or something like that. So we want to give our audience a taste of what being up close with a tokoeka is like. So what does it look like up really close?
I think the first thing that always strikes me when I've got one in hand is the legs. They really do look like dinosaur legs. They're really scaly. They're huge. Big claws on the end of their toes as well, and The first thing I really noticed with these, the tokoeka compared with the northern birds, is they've got so much down, so they actually feel really soft and so much feather. They obviously need it down here with the cold weather. So I'm just how fluffy they are just still surprises me. And as you go up, they again they're quite big birds down here. The females will be up to getting on for about 2.83 kg. So they're big birds. They've got big long bills, kind of a good 120 mil or so. So just they just look like nothing else. No other bird that's around, really.
That is so cool. And does their size make them less speedy? Are they clumsy?
A little bit of both. They can move with incredible speed when they want to, but they are also incredibly clumsy, especially the chicks. I've seen a couple of nests. I've got a couple of nest recordings this year where the chicks have just been pottering around in front of the nest camera, and then suddenly they just trip up and fall over and roll down a hill, and they've gone. I've even seen an adult bird just kind of look up into the air and fall on its back and roll over, and then kind of quickly get up and run away. So they are a very clumsy bird.
Oh my gosh! And are the feathers? You say there are so many feathers. Are they given to iwi? Those feathers?
Yeah, they certainly are. We keep hold of them here at the dock office for them if they're ever requested. Yeah.
And what does a tokoeka? What does it smell like? You know, they say kakapo are like honey and kind of tree-ish. What's a tokoeka like?
I'm gonna use the easy answer and say they smell quite musty, which every bird kind of you end up saying smells quite musty. But it's a really strong smell. Yeah, their poo is quite a strong smell of ammonia, really strong. So once you've got your nose in, you can kind of pick them up if you're just walking along the track and there's been one go past in the past 10 minutes, quarter of an hour, you really get a waft. You kind of see why they're so prone to being caught by dogs or stoats or ferrets. If they smell that much, if I can smell them that easily, then a dog's going to pick them up from miles away.
What would you say is the biggest threat to kiwi? We've heard about dogs and stoats. Is it both? Is it neither? Is it humans?
It's probably both, to be honest. Certainly in this area, it will be stoats. In a lot of our national parks, we have no dogs allowed, so that's a big help for the kiwi out here. Yes, stoats can breed incredibly quickly and just find those kiwi chicks, and also other birds. Really, any other native birds they'll take. Dogs can be an issue up in the North Island, especially. Ferrets can be a really big problem. They'll also take adult birds, which is a big issue.
And stoats are very good hunters, aren't they? I've seen footage of, one jumping into a rock wren nest from miles away. That's pretty difficult for our native species, would you say?
Yeah, they're real apex predators, and they're just incredible at hunting. So they'll just happily stake out a nest until that chick's either hatched or big. Even with some of the passerines, so the rock wren or totowai robins, they'll wait until like kind of the last day before they fledge, and then go in and take them. So the chick's as big as it can possibly be, and it's got as much meat on it as it can.
It's that premeditated.
Yeah, they're pretty clever.
So how often do stoats have young? How big a threat are they?
Stoats can have up to 12 kits in a litter. So you usually have one litter a year. A kit is a young stoat, a baby stoat. And the most amazing, I don't know if amazing is the right word, but most interesting thing is that within a really short space of those kits being born, the male will go back into that nest, impregnate the mum and all of the female kits in there as well. So they're all, the moment those stoats leave the nest, they're ready to reproduce. So they can increase in numbers really rapidly.
How often do kiwi have young?
So the tokoeka down here will have maybe two attempts a season. So they'll have one clutch with one egg around about October, and then they might try again in December. Usually that second one is if they failed the first time round. So we're kind of happy if we've got one chick a year.
Wow, that doesn't sound like a fair balance of stoats versus kiwis at all. That brings us back to your wonderful Save Our Iconic Kiwi work in Fiordland. Can you tell us a bit about what you're doing?
Yeah, so we're monitoring a population we're monitoring about 12 males. We're monitoring the males because they're the ones that actually sit on the egg, incubate the egg. So it gives us a good idea when a bird is nesting. And we're catching the chicks. We put a little tiny transmitter on them, which is about 5 grams in weight, so really light. And then we monitor those from the time they've hatched, hopefully to the time they get to about 1 kg and are what we call stoat proof, big enough to defend themselves from stoats. Certainly when we have stoats around, they're usually eaten within about the first 2 weeks. So yeah, my job is to monitor them and just record the survival rates of the chicks.
And the main place that you work is in Fiordland in Shy Lake. So why Shy Lake?
So when they were looking for a good site to start this project, they looked at a number of sites, and this produced a good number of southern Fiordland tokoeka. I mean, it's still quite a sparse population out there. We've got probably a bird every 15, 20 hectares, so it's still quite a sparse population, but it's kind of the best site we know of and we can get to.
So what predator control is done in Shy Lake?
So for the first 3 years, we just had a clean slate. There was no predator control at all. We monitored 34 birds, or 34 chicks in that time, and not a single one of those chicks survived. We had stoats coming up on the cameras. I think there was something like an 80% sightings of stoats on the cameras, so really big numbers of pests out there. We then did our first 1080 drop in 2020, the start of 2020, and we immediately started seeing positive results. So we've got around about 20% averaged out on the past 2 years survival rate in that time. This season, which is the third season since the drop, we've started to see pests coming back and stoats coming back, and that survival rate's crashed again. We've currently got one surviving chick from this season. That's from 12 chicks that we've monitored.
Those are small results, but they are good results. Achieving a 20% increase in 2 years might not sound huge, but it is enough to keep the population growing. And it's much better than the 0% survival rate for 3 years before using aerial 1080. So how come in Shy Lake you need to use 1080 instead of trapping? Why wouldn't trapping work?
The area is just so vast, so it's a big landscape and it's really rugged terrain. As I say, even our smallish site, which is about 1,000 hectares in total, goes from 1,000 meters above sea level down to sea level, and it's too vast, it's too steep. The country's too rugged. There's too much thick vegetation, which is just really difficult to get through. So yeah, going out there, it would take 3, potentially 2 weeks even to walk out there. It's such a remote part of the country as well. It's just not feasible to trap.
Wow, that does not sound feasible. It also sounds very difficult to find kiwi chicks in that kind of terrain. So well done you. And how do you talk me through tracking a kiwi? Because that sounds detailed.
Yeah, so once we've got the transmitter on for the adult kiwis, it's about a 25 gram transmitter strapped to their leg. And this allows us to follow them by radio telemetry. So you might see the aerials out a fair bit. That's attached to a receiver and it just sends us a nice constant beep If it's a bird that's not incubating, it will beep at 30 beats a minute. And it will tells us quite a little bit of code. So it actually tells us loads of information, really. It tells us how active it's been for each day of the past week. It will tell us if it is nesting, when it started nesting. So we get some really useful information from that.
How do you tell which beep is which bird?
So they're all on a different channel. So we have a handy little receiver, and we just go through channel 0 to channel 99, depending on what channel the transmitter's on.
Wow. And what do you do when you find them and do a checkup? What's the routine there?
So during the breeding season, we'll be checking to see if it's that nice fast 48 beats a minute, which means it's incubating. After about 30, 40 days of the bird being on a nest, we'll sneak down, put a nest camera up by the nest burrow, and from there we can just check to see if there's any pests coming in. So we may well see stoats. There's a few native birds as well that come in, so we really often see titipunamu, rifleman of late, which is really nice to see. There's the occasional sneaky weka which will come in, maybe a kia as well will come in and say hello and have a little nose, and usually try and attack the cam and dismantle the camera, but we usually have to kind of make sure they're well and truly held into place. The kia do like to play with the cameras, but yeah, once we've got the cameras up, once the chick is hatched, usually after about 75 days of incubation, so it's a really long incubation time, about 2.5 months, we'll go in, and after about the chick will be about 5 days old, we'll wait for the chick to come out of the nest and put the little tiny transmitter on the chick so we can monitor those. So it keeps us pretty busy over the summer. We're monitoring, as I say, 12 males at the moment. We have monitored up to 16 in the past.
Wow. So how often do you go in to do this monitoring? It sounds like it takes so long to get there. Do you bring a tent to, wait there and check if the chicks, how does it work?
We go in about once every 2 weeks. It can be a bit more often. It's really weather dependent. As I say, we're out in Fiordland, and we get a fair share of rain out here. Is it one of the wettest places in the world, is it? We're often just kind of very dependent on the weather and just get in whenever we can, really. But we will often go in for 3 days if possible, 2 nights. We've got it pretty good out there, actually. We've got 2 bivvies out there, so we've even got a heater and kind of bunk beds and a decent little cooker. So we can. It's not too bad over the nights. For some of the birds further away, we do camp and just go in, and if we're doing a night catch.
It doesn't sound like the glamping that I would request. But you must be in a race against the weather sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. The weather's kind of certainly in the spring. You just kind of life revolves around checking the forecasts and hoping, keeping your fingers crossed that you get a good little break. It's kind of crucial, especially when the chicks are just hatching and you need to get in. You may have kind of 3 or 4 days to get in while the chick's still hanging around the nest. And if you've got bad weather, then you lose a chick. It's wandered off and gone to a new place, and you've got no hope of finding it.
My colleagues, Belle, Jane and Lucy, are making this work into a documentary-style mini-series, and you are in it. So what was it like being filmed for this?
Less painful than I thought it was going to be. No, it was really good. And again, we had to work around the weather. We had, I think, the first few days that Belle and Lucy came down, the weather was just atrocious, so we kind of got stuck in Tiana for a few days. But once we got out there, it went really well. We managed to come across one of the chicks from, sub-adults now from last year, so one of the surviving birds that we're still monitoring, and that was weighed in at about 1.6 kg, so that was really, really nice to see.
Good to get that stuff documented.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's just nice to have some success. I think we even found a found a chick, which you kind of when you're going out, especially with a film crew, you're never kind of sure what's going to happen.
Yeah,
birds being birds, you might have all left or be in a completely different place to where you hope they are. So it's always a relief to get something on film. To be honest, I kind of forgot they were there, which I think is a good thing. Yeah. It gets very conscious when you've got a camera straight in your face, but. They're really professional and just get on with their stuff. I kind of felt for them really because it's. I think they were probably carrying more than I was for the trip. So lugging that stuff around, especially the walk back up from Shire Lake to where the bivvies are, is a good 400-meter climb, and it's not a hill I like, I must admit. So for them to kind of scramble up there is good on them.
Ooh, I can't wait to see the behind the scenes stuff. So you love conservation, and it's very clear how passionate you are about it. Do you ever come across people that aren't so into it and you need like a conservation conversion fact to kind of bring them in? I have a colleague whose favourite thing to tell friends is that female peka or bats time their pregnancy so that it happens with their friends. That's thanks to Jess Scrimger in episode 18. But do you have a conservation conversion fact? Yeah,
I have quite a few, to be honest. One early one would be, especially with kiwi, is that they have bone marrow, like you and me, but unlike any other bird. Is a pretty good one. So they're so used to, or they've been wandering around the ground for so long, they've now got bone marrow.
Wow.
So that's quite a good one. One that still blows my mind is a black robin being down to one female in their entire population. And now there's about 300 birds out in the Chathams. Then I've got a few good hee-hee facts as well. Is this a PG? So hee-hee are the only bird known to mate in the missionary position. How about that one?
Face to face, for example.
So that's one that people don't forget. I've had a few people come back to me with that one and remind me that I've said that. And the other one with them, the males, their gonads swell to a larger size than their brain during breeding season.
Wow. Nature is fascinating. I know people find it gross. I think it's amazing. And what do you tell people that want to get involved with conservation, be it hee-hee or kiwi or anything?
Yeah, if it's something you're passionate about, follow it and just keep going. I started life in conservation a little bit later. I suppose I was about 26 when I had my first job, and it was something that I just didn't think was achievable kind of before then. But kind of stuck at it, started volunteering at a few places and realised that actually there are jobs and volunteer positions out there, and certainly with the volunteering wise, you kind of start doing anything that's out there. So in this country, just get out trapping and helping out local trusts and things. You'll never be rich working in conservation, but it's certainly, I can't imagine doing anything else.
It's a passion, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a passion, and it's incredibly rewarding.
Doddy, thank you so much for being here and spending your time with us away from trekking up mountains. I realise we've caught you on a day when you're not in the field, so we're very, very happy to have you here. I love learning about the whole part of the world that you are working in. I feel pretty enamoured with all of the kiwi chicks that you've described. Thank you for being on today.
Oh, thank you. It's been been great to be on and natter about kiwi and things I love.
Anytime. You can watch the Fiordland Kiwi Diaries exclusively on Doc's YouTube. First episode will be out on the 14th of June. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Erica Wilkinson, and this has been the Doc Sounds of Science podcast. This show is available wherever you get your podcasts, or you can stream it off our website, doc.govt.nz. This show is produced by Jane Ramage with editing by Lucy Holyoke. If you enjoyed this episode, show us some love with a 5-star rating.